Hello guys, I'm Shop came back once again. Start the video. I believe I am the only person on the planet who actually liked Pacific Rim Uprising. So to give you some backstory, it's 2013, right? This is the same year where Man of Steel from Zack Snyder released the first trailer, and that John Kent trailer where good hero, a good guy or bad, you can change to where it's incredible. This same year, Guillermo del Toro reveals a trailer for Pacific Rim. And it was incredible. Giant robots fighting kaijus, and it's just the world. The world building, the way the Jaegers looked, the way everything was presented, it was great. It was incredible, right? Definitely ever seen before. And I'm sure this is not your first mecha. Sure there's been stuff like this in anime. Sure we had Real Steel the same year. Yeah, Real Steel, Pacific Rim, and Superman. Interesting. But 2013 was and Iron Man 3, but that was an interesting year for movies. But I always thought it was incredible. I always loved the movie first it came out. Of course, you know, I couldn't go to theaters and watch it. But hey, back then, I found my own means to watch it. I watched it again and again. Picked it up on DVD. I loved the movie, right? I always enjoyed it, right? The thing is, I don't believe the first Pacific Rim is some masterpiece. It's not. But it is a good movie. And it's a great execution of a brilliant idea from Guillermo del Toro. Because anybody can make a show or a movie with mechas, but the way Guillermo del Toro did it with the world building, the lore, when the movie came out in 2013, and we got to attack a trespasser in 2013. Come on. Come on now. It was great calling the mechs Jaegers. Great idea. Jaeger is German for hunter. Calling the monsters, instead of calling them monsters, calling them kaiju. Just Japanese name or term for monster. Now it's just become universally known to call everything kaiju, in which it is what it is. But I always enjoyed it. I always liked the idea, but I never thought it was some 5-star masterpiece. It was good, but it was never just this thing where it had the most complex plot. It had the most complex characters. It was the greatest. I always thought it was great. So when Uprising came out 5 years later, I mean when the first trailer shit came out and it unveiled Gypsy Avenger. My fucking goodness! And then that thumbnail of the trailer was magnificent. I can't remember it's been quite some time, but the more trailers came out, John Boyega's in it. This is after coming fresh off what 3 years from The Force Awakens. I was liking John Boyega's actor at that time. I don't think I dislike him. I just haven't really kept with his career since Imperial March, Pacific Rim, and Star Wars. I haven't really kept up, especially after that Last Jedi. I can't blame him for that. But everybody was curious. I can't recall if people knew at that time Guillermo del Toro. I knew he wasn't directing, but I don't know what happened with him and Legend Jedi. I can't say that. So the movie comes out. I thought Pacific Rim Uprising was an alright movie. It was nothing bad. It was nothing awful. It was a solid continuation of everything that was set up in Pacific Rim. Well, I don't even think I checked online. I think I was just scrolling to YouTube, and I was like, look, I can't remember exactly what brought upon me finding out people actually hated this movie. Now, it's one thing to dislike a movie, but there's like an active hatred for this movie for some strange reason. It's like they claiming the movie stole their childhood. That it was a lot of claims. It's just strange. You'll get to the Mori one, but first thing first, I think the Jaegers move too fast. Pause. Did you forget how fast Striker Ariska moved as a first edition Mark V? We're not going to act like he wasn't the fastest Jaeger on screen. Faster than anybody else we've seen alive on screen. Matter of fact, he was so fast and so good, Otachi and Leatherback looked like a joke until Yellowback used his ability. So what did you expect from a Mach 6 to be slow? Not only a Mach 6 on top of that 6+ years of studying, development, and research and concern for whether the kaiju's gonna come back or not. What did you expect to happen for them to move? Like even then, they still move slow. Even Godzilla Kong moves slow compared to Mecha Anime and Gundam. Slow, so it's just like there is nothing in the movement that breaks anything. Then there was complaints about the design. It looks like Mecha. Not really. Um, Never seen Evangelion, but even from what I've seen, don't look like that. So it's just like I don't see those complaints. And then it's on to the plot point with Mori, because we already know what time it is. Much y'all like to act like they like Mori that much of a character. They don't. But it is what it is. Well, why did she have to die? Well, if Mori didn't die in this movie, she would have delayed the deployment of the Jaeger drones. And the delaying the deployment of the Jaeger drones would give humanity more time to figure out what Newt was doing. On which the precursors planned this movie. With absolute genius. It was incredible. Because everybody would expect, well, we just send out a bigger monster. We just do so and so. No. You want to send a Jaeger to our world and nuke it? I got a plan for that. And that's the thing. I like how they go in depth with the drift. And we never. So in the first movie, right? It was Herman called it crazy or insane to drift, the brain drift with a kaiju, right? But even with the drifting and the transfer of minds, we never would have expected there'd be a master's drawback until Newt. Newt got this higher position, using this how he helped find out the a solution to get past the breach with Herman. Used that to build his whole career. It was great. It was excellent. And then you find out he's still drifting with the kaiju. Now Newt was an odd guy, but you know that is a little strange, a little weird, right? And then the attack on the FDF force happens, and the ideal of a kaiju drone made from the dead kaiju parts they've had for years. Remember, this stuff was going for a premium price on the black market. Premium. So, it wouldn't be that hard. We got Otachi that recently died. Her remains are still there. We got Leatherback who recently dies. His remains are still there. So there's still a lot of kaiju stuff, a lot of kaiju blue all over the place. Before they can actually, implant these drones with these homunculi, Frankenstein. Which is ironic. Guillermo del Toro released a Frankenstein movie after they make a continuation movie to his with a Frankensteining monster kaijus. But why did Mori have to die? Pretty sure if Mori was already curious about them drones, what if the Panda Defense Force or anybody else decided, let's crack one of them open, let's study them. That would just reveal the whole plan. She had to die. And then you got Obsidian Fury, one of the coolest names for a Jaeger, and two is just the fight between Gypsy Avengers, which is ironic because this is the home of Striker Eureka from Sydney. The fight between Gypsy Avengers and Obsidian Fury was absolutely excellent. The uppercut, the way Obsidian Fury picked it up by his hip, slamming back and forth from the buildings, he was moonwalking on top of them. Tragic. Somehow there's another conversation. Why couldn't Gypsy Avengers use this gravity beam in their helicopter? So do you know what type of effect that kind of pressure would have on somebody's human body? Have you ever seen tests or hinted towards that the gravity beam that crushed a bunch of cars together would not have any negative ad effects against the human body? And that's when I realized this is like a Devil May Cry type of thing. This is a what is it? It's Devil May Cry. I'm trying to think of some other fan base where they have like this cancerous mentality of a false pureness of the brand, where anything, and I do mean anything, step outside what their own personal viewpoint of the franchise is wrong. It's the same way if Guillermo del Toro would have made a movie anywhere similar to this, what makes like drastic change to the lore, they would cast him out like George Lucas. We've already seen it. Like, they don't care about these creators, but it is what it is. Back to the main point. But I always enjoyed this movie. I always enjoyed it. I like the plot points of the precursors, turning the human technology onto them. And it showed that the kaiju's connection to the precursors is not a one-way street. They just don't send them to humanity from the Aniverse. And it's just, they're just whatever. Because remember, every kaiju was found out by Newman to be clones. All of them. So that's why a lot of the ones in Pacific Rim look similar. They all got the same big back plate. They got the same like forearms that are fused together. It even seemed like when Gypsy went down, we had those endless clones of Knifehead, on which I don't know why you need that many knife heads. But then again, they made multiple clones of the first Jaeger. When you look at the flash, well the intro part of the Pacific Rim, so it's just, ugh, ugh, ugh. But yeah. Now we don't know how much damage Gypsy did down there from the first movie, but whole lot of damage. So finding out that it's not just a one-way street, it is more than likely that every progression of Jaeger, the precursors saw it through the drones before they died. Every single one of them. And it's proven by Newt when Newt was choking out Herman and they took control of him saying that he wasn't strong enough. Meaning, every kaiju, the reason why they will always send the kaiju stronger, it wasn't because their kaijus were getting killed, it's because the precursors was watching us this whole time. So it was by design. I don't, after Striker Eureka put down Mutador, on which the whole sense of a wall in the first movie is an idiotic idea. Now in concept, and the reason why I say it is there are people that complain is why they keep trying to move away from the two drift system. Well, for one, instead of having two people dying inside a Jaeger, you only have one Jaeger per one pilot. It's similar to how we'll get to the final Breeze comic book later. Similar to how the KSI drones are going to be remotely pliant, meaning if the body dies, the person can still live on, have their experience, and be able to report back. Because usually when one of these Jaegers get killed, outside the helicopters that are around, we really can't get any real in-depth data of what happened or how it happened. Use that to process data and so on and so on. You just kind of, well, he's dead, on to the next. Bring in another Jaeger, hopefully. We'll have to nuke him again. But it introduced a lot of interesting concepts, a lot of interesting ideas to follow up with, especially with the Mark 6. Like November Ajax wasn't. It is what it is. Like a lot of the complaints. I remember recently, I've just been rewatching clips making AMVs. I've been trying to stay away from them because it's just like the logic and the questioning of it is just. It's one thing, you prefer Guillermo del Toro's style. The first movie really have a really strong tone, art style, and everything else like that. Because even the kaiju in Pacific Rim Uprising takes a different turn, but not as extreme. Because even though most kaijus got the same body of Knifehead, you got people like the crab, you got the ones like Mutador, you got the ones like Raijin. No, not Raijin. Raijin was the Uprising. Raiju and Skunner still got the same general body. And then we got Splatter. I can't remember the category 5 in the first movie. We got those, but let's take a different change. They don't really have as many abilities. But then again, Skunner didn't have an ability. Raiju was quick, and the category 5 in the first movie was just big and survived the nuke. So I guess because only Raijin and Uprising only had one ability. Similar had a scatter shot only had one ability, which is shoot at them the spikes. Now that could have blown up when it got stuck to you. It didn't happen. And the other guy, I think it's like Hamrata or something like that. He just tunnels on the ground. It's not bad, but then you realize we never get to a little part of the plot. But I always thought the ideas and stuff introduced made sense. Now some might say, what about the kids? Well, you saw what the teenagers is only on screen for about 15 minutes. Most of the movie is Jake Pentecost and Nathan Lambert, and the time that Maury's on the screen. Outside of those three characters and Herman, and the parts where Newt is in it, is just like there aren't many characters that takes the main front besides from Jake, Nathan, and I think her name was like a money bingo. I think it's a money on Mar, the girl who made her own Nick. In which, is that a stretch? I would say no. At that time, if you are just kind of just reverse engineering a bunch of stuff from a junkyard, you don't need to recreate something. You just need to get something that still works. It's like anywhere in the junkyard. As long as it still works, you just implement it into your own. So there's no guarantee she built the UI and everything else inside the system. So it goes like that, right? So it's just, I think I am the only genuine fan of it. I like both movies. Never hated Uprising. I just found it an odd idea. Because a lot of concepts and stuff were interesting. I think it executed decently well. It's not some type of spectacular movie where it's just, boy, it's 5-star, 5-star. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. But for that same merit, the worst you can say is meh. But this whole forgettable and things like that. But somebody asked, have I ever seen Pacific Rim Black? No, I haven't. Like as soon as I saw there would be some designs just repainted, I just lost all interest. I don't know about the Hydra Kaiju. I don't know about if the precursor sent more Titans after that. I just don't. I just had no interest in it. I just didn't. But mm, mm. But there's like a real genuine hatred for this movie, and I just don't understand it. I don't. On to the up. So recently, right, making the AMVs, having a good old time. You know, rewatching old footage, looking at the characters and things like that. But before that, I do like what they did with Newman and Herman. These are two characters that are really integral to finding out how to send like a warlord packet over to the precursors world, so this won't just be, well, they send out another bigger kaiju and we lose some more Jaegers. Cause the long term plan didn't make any sense. Cause you're gonna build a wall and the kaiju shows up right after they built the wall. And what? You're just gonna spend years outside of the wall just pounding on it until they send some more, or what, they're gonna nuke the kaiju behind the wall? That's gonna contaminate the water. What was the plan? Because if they can't nuke it in the water, since a lot of kaiju's travel underwater, what was the plan with the wall? What was the objective here? They're just gonna spit. Is it gonna be a part of life until what, we get 10 kaiju's in one part of the world? What, giving enough time to make more Jaegers? It's like, what? You're already using Jaegers left and right, losing pilots left and right that are compatible to drift, which is another thing people are complaining about. In a recent Final Breeze comic, there are people are drifting with kaiju dead bodies, right? And it's not the same way Newt was doing it. It's not the same because Newt kept doing it, and one of them was still alive. I don't think it would have mattered if one of them was still alive or not, because even Herman still had nightmares about it, but they couldn't control Herman. So it had to be because that one had to be alive. I think he got that one from the Itachi baby or something like that. He had to. It had to be like a secondary brain that was alive. Remember, you can find a lot of this stuff on the black market. It's not that hard. Which is why I like the intro part. It shows how much integral the black market and these monster zones are. How people live their life. Because a lot of people wonder, well, if it is the end of the world, we're getting attacked. Well, what's the point of clocking into work? What would be the point? Now, including the fact how many jobs making a Jaeger produce. It's not automatic. There's a lot of workers, a lot of small parts. And it just, there's a lot of elements of Pacific Rim that could be expanded in comic books, TV shows, live actions, and so on and so on. But what was it? Oh yeah, on to the Herman. And there's a lot of complaints with the whole drifting thing. And what is the point of losing two people where you can just lose one? Those are two people with years of drift compatibility, years of experience, dying in a Jaeger. You can't get those people back. You can't. And that's already a group of people that's already limited in number by default. So not only is most of the population potentially not even drift compatible, we're losing a viable asset every time you send them out there. Because at any time, an Otachi or a Leatherback or more than one kaiju can just show up and obliterate everybody. So why wouldn't they try to find a way for at least to be one, right? Then we still have a drift compatible person. Because I made it like a whole lot of drones in Uprising, and that's a whole lot of metal. There's no point of throwing that stuff all the way. And depending how it's implemented, how it's designed, it can work. Depending how they explain. I haven't had a chance to read it, and I won't be able to have a chance to read it, but it is that's something else. But yeah, and some idiot on that Reddit, on which yeah, I see why people stereotype the people on Reddit. Said they're trying to take away the intimacy of drifting. The worst part about it, I throw down $500. That was a grown man saying that. I throw down $500. You talking about not having two people compatible drifting in Pacific Rim is taking away intimacy. Oh, they're afraid of intimacy. What are you talking about? Do you realize what you're talking about? This is a slight, like, this is why you don't do drugs, kids. This is why. But I liked a lot of the ideas, and I like how Herman and Newman became very important characters in Uprisings. They continue to help out, because really, without Newman or Herman, a lot of people would have died a long time ago in the Pacific universe. A lot of them, especially in Uprising, especially in the first movie. Take that back. So, mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm. I always thought the overall plot was genius, especially with Newman and how he was able to manipulate this company with information and intel and modify these KSI drills. Now, the more interesting character from Uprising is Obsidian Fury. It is not just because he's powered by a kaiju drain, it's his creation. Because against Gypsy Avenger, the man was outright monstrous. Just completely ruthless. Putting a wombo combo into him. Oh boy. And then the fight in Siberia. I'm telling you, the action in this movie should be criminal. This should be outlaw. Fighting through the glacier, going back and forth was excellent. And then the fatality blew a hole straight to the man's chest. Get him out of here. Exit your Jaeger. Well, it's not a Jaeger. And it's the logic, it's the brain power from taking all these organs and these parts and using them for their own means. Like a lot of. And it's really just turning the game on top of his head. Because it put the precursors in a position where, for the first time, the precursor is on the back foot. Like we said before, we don't know what type of damage sending Gypsy Avengers in as a tactical nuke did to their antiverse. We don't know if it could have mutated things. We don't know if they created a complete dead zone, or so on and so on. We don't know what type of extreme damage it did. All we know it is, and plus we don't know how much time passed by. It could be they can make a kaiju in a day, and that's 10 years on Earth. Could be. Or it could be one day is like, what, about 2 months to them? So they got way more time to plan and discuss and analyze and yeah, some interesting things, interesting concepts. Especially you get into like the category 1, 2, and 3 Jaegers, which not really explored. But we've seen Chernow Alpha. That's one. That's one Jaeger. That's one. That's not really explaining like the currents and the creeks. You got well, no. We got Chernow Alpha and Coyote Tango. I think that's more or less. But what about Romeo Blue? He's dead. Yeah. The only reason I bring Coyote Tango, he got an excellent design. Besides the fact you stand anywhere near them guns where they fire, you're gonna go deaf. So, I do believe the Mark 1 through 3 time period of Pacific Rim would be very interesting, especially with the political games and the manufacturing and resources and money. There could be a lot of aspects being played on. It's the reason why Pentecost has always seemed like he's against the wall. He's always going against impossible odds. You got to sit here and relegate funding to a Jaeger, and we have 2 people getting killed back to back, and that's 2 Jaegers. That's a lot of money. But I like the fatality in this movie. There's always a fatality. In the first movie, Gypsy blew a hole through the category 5. Excellent. And that's how he was able to go through the breach. And in this movie, they boost up Gypsy Avenger, drop him from low orbit, and split the Mega Kage. I was just sad the Mega Kage don't got a name. Like, I understand why in movie it doesn't have a name, but like for the toys and packaging, you could have gave Mega Kaiju a name, but they didn't. It is what it is. Split him clean in half. Fatality. He's done. Get him out of here. Sadly, Gypsy Avengers. He gone. Leave. But yeah, I we got a problem with most of the Jaegers in the design. I do think Titan Redeemer and the other one look too similar. Like compared to like Omega Valor has a decent design, but he's not really a fighting Jaeger. He's more of a civilian Jaeger. Similar to November Ajax, which would explain why shortly after Uprising, a lot of them early Jaegers got destroyed. A lot of them. Tragic. It is what it is. Sometimes, 10 years on the couch don't hurt nobody. So, because they're not desperate. They didn't have to do anything. They just had to maintain. And anytime you have to maintain things, some might say, well, Savior Athena is a Mark 7. It's an experiment and someone got bored. Doesn't count. Doesn't count. Boredom don't count. As I was saying, doesn't count. Doesn't count. Boredom don't count. Making a Mark 7 with super speed doesn't count. But I like the other Guardian Bravo. Titan Redeemer, Omega Valor, and the other one, they got kind of generic designs. November Ajax is a great design. The main 3, cause that one with the Wrecking Ball I got from Titan Redeemer, he's alright. It's a Mark 5. But Omega Bravo, nice design. Savior Athena and Avengers got some decent design. I can't blame some of them Cause the early designs of marks don't look okay. Cause Romeo Blue is alright. Compare that to Ronin, Tactical Ronin, or Coyote Tango. Romeo Blue does not stand out. Even compared to Chernow Alpha, he doesn't stand out. He's just there. Similar to how we don't get to see too many Category 2 Jaegers either throughout the franchise. It just, they exist. Not mentioned much. You might see some in the background maybe. But it's just, is what it is. Is what it is. Is what it is. But I like the movie overall. There's no major wrong flaws. I like Jake Pentecost's character. I like Nathan Lambert, and that eventual love triangle they get into. It's just weird. But it just followed up on the legacy of one's father, and it's really explaining the extended material, the relationship between Drake and Mari. Even though Mari didn't have a lot of scenes in the movie, but for the plot, she had to die. Just the way it is. Which is a big thing I hate about media in general is when you don't kill off characters. There's no stakes. They complain. When you do kill characters, you killed my favorite character. I'm not gonna read no more. So no matter what happens, you just is what it is. But it is good to know that in the final Breach comic that Rayleigh is still alive. I like to see his reaction to Mari and how he react to Jake Pentecost being there. Because it makes sense of why he would just go off after the breach is closed, after the nuke blows up. Because it seems like everything's happy, everything going. Since why Mari would dedicate herself to the Pacific Defense Force, because you know Pentecost is in it, and she got strong ties to being anti-kaiju. Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense, right? But yeah, yeah. It was um, the dad of Striker Eureka. It was Herc and the other one. I can't remember which one is which. He was still alive. Didn't have a follow up on what happened to him either. But like I said before, there's a lot of TV and anime of Pacific Rim. Like I prefer something like Kong Skull Island or something else. Or a DC movie. I just don't want it to look like anime because it's not going to be anything with unique designs. It's going to be generic anime style that everybody want to replicate. Even though the most popular animes that people talk about don't have a generic art style. It's just dumb. Whole different subject. But I personally overall like the movie. I like the concepts introduced. I like the Jaegers that are there. I like the kaijus that showed up. Cause the Mecha Kaiju, one of the tirade, left and right. Guardian Bravo had 3 seconds of success. Savior Athena catch a tail whoop. Done. So, but yeah, Obsidian Fury, very interesting. Cause his creation, it's how tough the Jaeger is. He can be slashed up. He can be shot multiple times. He's just like, he got some real heavy endurance. Similar to Gypsy Avenger. But it's just somebody said, well, Gypsy always had high endurance. I say I'm 50-50. Because Striker Eureka is a better Jaeger than Gypsy Danger. That's just factual. He's faster. The design is roughly on the same tier. Easily on the same tier, in my opinion. Got more weaponry and got a better finisher. Because the chest finisher with Gypsy was the last option, wasn't a primary one. So you just got the chain whips and the gun. Which put Yancey out of commission and killed Rayleigh's brother. Would have had more options, Knifehead would have died. But it's just, taking a full timeline to account, everything in Uprising, even with the kids, makes sense. You got 10 years of it's like, people don't really pay attention of what happens to a place after a war. Cause like post World War II, the optimism, everybody was quote unquote happy, living this ideal life. So why wouldn't these group of kids be a part of the Pan Defense Force? The rare few that can drift properly without any drawbacks. Why wouldn't they treat things like a joke? Not serious. Even then, aside from 1 or 2 characters, is no one treats the program or being a part of this program as a joke. Like nobody. Aside from like 2 characters, the Russian and the Indian one, whose father was the breast surgeon, cracking a few jokes in there. I don't see why people hate those characters either. At all. But yeah, I was unaware that he never used Gypsy. I gotta look up if Jake ever was in Gypsy Avenger before. But I gotta do a lot of research. Cause there's a lot of extended lore in comic books. Some I want to read, others I don't. I'm indifferent if whether it's canon or not. If it is, if it is. If it's not, it's not. It is what it is. but indifferent. But there's a lot of lore. Cause Pacific Rim is a solid one-off, right? You can make a sequel if you want to, but if you didn't, humanity is on this last line. It already set the backbone for the world and the concepts. And if you want to end it there, just make a prequel. You can. If you want to make a sequel, you can. And I like that they made the sequel idea, and they waited about roughly 5 years before it can create that distinct separation. That the two are not meant to be the same. The same complaints people have about the Mark 6 Jaegers and Saber Athena is the same complaints people have about G1 Galvatron, Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Scourge. What do you mean? Everybody went for a sleek design. Even the Michael Bay movies. Well, Transformers 4, they got hard design to transfer into choice. You know, just like how compare a Hot Rod to somebody like Ironhide. Those two designs are vastly different. Hot Rod, Springer, RC, Cup. Those sleek humanoid designs, compare them to somebody like Ratchet, Grapple, Hoist, who are very big, bulky, to Bumblebee. Drastically different, right? So it's not meant to be the same, especially since Hot Rod is supposed to be a kid. Springer's one of the first trooper changes outside of Skylink slash Jeff. No, yeah, Skylink. So it's just like, it's not supposed to be the same. Do you gotta like it? No. Do you gotta like Pacific Rim Uprising? No, you don't. But I don't see what extreme disgust or hatred for the movie, especially compared to the first one, which was a good movie. Just like it just takes a drastic leap of the shark. Where is it? The drone kaijus would make sense, especially with Newman being the back door for the precursor to control his body. That's all it takes. Moving a few members around, investing in your own own. It is like the abandoned Jaeger sites is a very interesting concept because there is a lot of Jaeger junkyards and Jaeger facilities that were closed. But it's just a bunch of free, unused technology or unfinished technology just there. But some of them are in the middle of nowhere. Like people who want to make money care about that. Seriously. We got art thieves in current day. We got poachers going up against Cape buffaloes and rhinos. 2,000 pounds with an animal. The Black Death. The Ice Reach, right? The potential ending of Pacific Rim. Now, there are rumors of a TV show live action, on which it would make sense that a TV show will be formed because there's a lot of prequel stuff that can be, depending on when they make it. I would prefer for it not to be post Uprising. Now, I don't know what happened with the Uprising War. Maybe it can be some interesting things. Could be. There's some comic books that flesh it out. And you take Pacific Rim Black in the canon, you got that fleshes it out, right? I don't have a problem with it. But it's just, there's a lot of the Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3 lore that I want to see on screen. Especially how the different governments might try to flip a situation to their advantage. But the world is ending. You think they care about that? Think they care? They don't. There will always be some type of complex political turmoil no matter what happens, whether people agree or not. They agree to a similar goal. They don't agree to be friends. Big difference. Could it be that some nations are hiding Jaeger tech? Or legally dealing out under the table? Could be. But the plot, even with, like, if you want to go to that point, compared to like the Uprising War in between, you will be very limited, right? Because following up Pacific Rim Uprising, that would be hard. But doing a prequel to the first Pacific Rim will put you in a compromising position of having to play in closed doors. You got to stay in a very limited time frame and deal with very limited characters, and you can't do anything to break the lore. It's going to create a problem. Because why create unnecessary problems when you don't have to? But I think it's a cool idea. You should have started it somewhere else. Matter of fact, the perfect time you could start a Pacific Rim TV show is after Rayleigh left, after Yancey got killed. Perfect. He left for, what, 3-4 years? And we lost a lot of Jaegers in that time period. A lot of them. But you know what time it is. If you introduce a character and kill him, they're going to be mad. They're going to be emotional about it. These are the same people that got upset that Negan killed people in season 7 of The Walking Dead when they was mad that it left off on a cliffhanger. Why are you upset? This is it. This is what you wanted. You wanted blood, so Abraham and Glenn gotta die. But then they killed these two people. It's too much. They did too much. So you want to watch a person get their brains bashed in, and they do it. Then and plus then some, and you're still mad. Just yeah, this is gonna be a different video where I talk about some tips for being a creator. But you're broke. I may be broke, but I'm not stupid. But it's just like, cause you do introduce a bunch of characters, right? You get the reactions from the public if someone says something bad. What if some people want a certain Jaeger in the area, but they move them, relocate them to a different military point? Could it be that some governments are mad because they're leaving their country potentially defenses against a kaiju attack? What were the early days of finding out that the kaiju could come from anywhere? From the Americans, from the North and Central South America, West Coast, or anywhere in the Eastern Coast, from the Philippines all the way up to Korea or Russia. Because Gypsy's post was in Alaska. So that would play out some nice political turmoil. That can happen. Because the way it's explained, it first was like an American type thing. And then it started attacking other places 6 months later, and 6 months later, and 6 months later. So it's one of those things where it's very interesting to see that side, but not go 100% into it. I don't want no general character to be a main character, but they should play like a side character role where there is this pressure or expectation or this drive to do certain things, but only that benefit certain people. Which could be a problem with the Jaeger program at all because there are too many heads in the kitchen and too many people that want their own thing. What if they want more countries and more Jaegers, but they can't mass produce Jaegers or find enough pilots? It potentially could have led to a lot of pilots getting killed. So I say there's three different time points. We get an investigation into it could be a prequel to the final breach, doing the uprising one, right? How the drone get introduced, the drifting idea, or you can go during the early days, the introduction of the Mark IIs and the Mark I's with the Jaegers, or you can do that 3 year to 4 year time skip where Ray lays out and the Jaegers got killed with that. But with that, you're going to lead to a lot of action, a lot of CGI money, and a lot of high production. So it'll be easier overall for the budget to do it animated, but I don't want a Pacific Rim anime. Just like I don't want a Godzilla anime. It never turns out right. Never. And no one knows why. Because it's not like these are complicated things. It's not rocket science. You don't need a degree to write a story. Which is another video I gotta make. I'm sorry. Some things just come easy to people to others. You don't need a degree for everything. Because all these rules for stories that people have are only good for people who can't write and can't draw. If you already got those skills, you just need an audience. You can make money. That's all it takes. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius. Off subject, but back to the uprising, Pacific Rim, and the final breach. Sadly, I cannot buy this comic book. When I had the money, I could potentially, well, gotta wait till March. I don't want to pre-order it, but wait till March to save that money. I can get that 130 pages. Nope. Had to get an Uber because of the circumstance. Now I can't even get the goddamn book. It is what it is. But apparently some people like it, some people don't. I saw a guy try to explain what happens in the Final Breach book, and like always, they start to nut up in the comment section on Reddit and start to spaz out and just start spewing hatred for some strange reason. Like, the worst part about it, these aren't children. These are grown adults. Well, some of them might have kids. So if you ever confuse why these kids or grown adults are dumb, look at the people who raised them. Back to the main point. I don't know, some of the stuff introduced sound interesting, especially them bringing Rayleigh back to the fray and he promising Mari to finish the job, especially with this last Hail Mary attempt of trying to figure out how to send Jaegers through. This time, I guess they reinforced the breach. Over the last past 3 years, they've been able to send a Jaeger through. Gypsy Avenger. We don't know how big this big boy is compared to other Jaegers, or how this whole thing gonna turn out. Now, some people who backed it have already got their digital copies. And I don't know if they got the physical yet. But the only way if you were not a part of the Kickstarter to get in on it was to wait till March when they're going to deliver it. When they mass produce it for the public. But every year. So next year will be volume 2 of the Final Breach. And the year after that would be volume 3. Hopefully it turns out right. I take an animated adaptation just for budgetary concerns. Because it won't be cheap. But it'll be way cheaper than doing all that in live action. Pacific Rim Uprising was like $150. It has some pretty good CGI. There's not a Pacific Rim movie with bad CGI. Not one of them. All of them look great. So it just, a lot of ways to out. But I've just been sitting on this idea of I think I am the only fan of Uprising. I think I'm the only one like the ideas, the movies, the scenes. The twist with Newman was just low, maybe, just maybe. I didn't like how I was treated, or maybe I'm just not feeling like myself these days. And when Herman finally, it just clicks. It all started when Newt drifted with the dead kaiju. Because that's the thing. Herman only did it once. Newt did it twice in the same movie. He did it with a dead kaiju brain, and he did one with a live kaiju brain. Which potentially created a permanent connection with Newt and not Herman, since Herman only did it once. If somebody say we're in the final breach, well, I was drifting with so and so, they're just using that brain to take the neural load, and there's no like neurological, like that's the thing. If the brain is just like a brain stem and not any type of consciousness, and they're just using it to be the in between for the body, what would be the problem with that? The brain is not alive, it's not conscious, nor can it do anything they want it to not do, turning Newt's research onto itself. Because the same way you can cause the kaiju brains to mutate the drones, the same way you can contain it in a small sphere, only give it limited control. I'm telling you, like, the IQ is just bad for people. Like, when you realize how dumb people really are on a day-to-day basis, it's really sad. Because then you can understand why the world is the way it is. It's not a mistake. It's not. It's really not. And it's sad. But, yeah. So, I know a few loose plot points. I know it's going to be a trilogy of graphic novels. I'm just mad that I can't read it. I really am a big fan of this stuff. I do like it. And it's not... The monster fighting is the icing and the extra sprinkles and everything else on top. It's the underground lore and the premise of the precursors sending these monsters, and the precursors wanting to terraform Earth. What did they do to their own world? The precursors were always... Now, the thing with the precursors, I don't want it to be too explained, right? And it's not about keeping the mystery of the monster. It's about sometimes a monster don't need to be pulled out to college. Sometimes killing the boogeyman is just enough. So that's why you don't always need a complex character. You just need a complex idea, a creature, a being. You don't need a backstory all the time. So I'd like to take a few hints. However the antiverse thing turns out, we're going to get our first category 7 to find the breach. But it's just, that's all you need. Like a few hints, because I don't want to hear the same stereotypical eco-terrorist plot. Well, they destroyed their world. I want to be honest with you. Do you truly believe the rich society of the world will make life for themselves worse? No matter how dumb, slow, or trust fund babies you think they are. If you truly believe their lives were on the line, that they wouldn't stop something bad from happening, you're insane. So everything with so-and-so, and climate change and everything, I'm supposed to believe that I should get an electric car, where they can blast out tens of thousands more fuel and carbon dioxide than I can, in a 15-minute plane drive. But the military is still using fuel? But I gotta shoot him over here giving out life stories. What type of video is it? I just want to get my thoughts set about Pacific Rim Uprising. It's weird. But I like the concepts, the ideas, the premise, the Jaegers, the follow-up of how you create this new world of a post-kaiju world where people gotta live and put food on their table. And what's the best way to do it besides from selling illegal kaiju parts or selling illegal Jaeger parts? There's a lot of the underground world that gets explained in the comic books, and especially in the movie in the first 5 minutes in Uprising, that I like. The Jaeger graveyard is interesting, because at first you would think they can just reuse a lot of them parts, but then again, how many car companies reuse car parts from cars that are in the junkyard? How many of them? I've never heard or deal with any car company where you can tell them you can trade in your Ford or Toyota today and you can get some money back. Never. That is an interesting point. But I don't know. I will be interested to see how it turns out, that the world is back on the brink once again. Which I don't think a Pacific Rim story always needs to be. It's kind of like a comic book character story. Not every story needs to be this end of the world, this, or game idea. Where all it's gotta be is the end of the world. It's the worst case scenario. Sometimes a day in a life and the stress and pressure is enough. Sometimes the melodrama and the personal beefs and the pettiness and the drama and the family escapade. Sometimes that is enough to create a great story. There is no one way to make a good story. There are tips, there are ideas, there's ways to point you in the right direction. But overall, similar to drawing and many other things, you gotta find your own way and carve your own path. Because you can only imitate for so long. You can only pretend to swim or run for so long until eventually your legs give out or you drown. And I'd rather go out at my best than to be caught because of my own actions and incompetence. At least then, well, you know, I did my best, tried the best I could against the best opposition, and I wasn't able to make it up. Like many of the Jaegers. The same reason why I don't blame Rayleigh or call him a coward for him leaving the program after his brother died, after they killed Yancey. I don't, because a whole lot of kills, whole lot of bodies, whole lot of kills. So he did more than enough in this service to the planet and everywhere else. So I can't blame him from hanging up hanging up the pilot suit and going to work on the wall, which seemed like a great idea, unless you think about the idea. Alright, we're going to combat sharks. What we're going to use? We're going to use a net along the whole coast. You know sharks can hop out the water, right? Yeah. You're aware that they could just make a kaiju that can drill on the ground, right? If we have kaiju that can spit acid and do all these extra things from the comics and everything else, you think they can't release a kaiju that could just tunnel under the... Oh, that's another case. It's just like, people don't talk about the first movie like they have any problems. The wall idea is dumb. It is blatantly stupid. But I'm supposed to be surprised that Mutador was able to bust through it so easily? Why wouldn't you expect that? You've seen them upgrade kaiju for the past 10 or plus 15 years. Why are you surprised? Well, you know there's a brand new category that could show up every year. So like the whole wall idea was dumb from the beginning. That's stupid. And it should have been trying to find a way to stop the breaches from happening, period. Which, like I said before, if it wasn't for Herman and Newt, the world would have died. Twice, for that matter. If it wasn't for Herman in the second movie, would have got killed. And also the help from Shaw Industries. And it was for Newt and Herman in the first movie, would have died. No matter how much I like Gypsy Danger, but without the intel from Herman and Newt, everybody in that first movie would have died. They got massacred by Leatherback and Otachi. They already knew what a Category 4 was. You get obliterated by Leatherback and Otachi, really? You had how many Jaegers out there? And also, to go to another thing. Are you telling me that no people had any type of electromagnetic protection in case at any like really it's only Gypsy who got electromagnetic post protection? Are you serious? And you seen that kaijus can mutate and become better and become more evolved? And like this is before Newt found out that all of them are clones and they're pretty much playing humanity down until they burn all their resources. Similar how another idea I like. The precursors want Earth, right? They want to make it their own home. So how are they going to do that? From Uprising, detonate on Mount Fuji. It's pretty big. Yellowstone in America is a super volcano, but I like Mount Fuji as well. Because Mount Fuji makes more sense. Because one, whole lot of water. You gotta pass like what? One state, two states to get to Yellowstone? Compared to just going to Japan, you just pop off from the coast. Godzilla do it all the time. Which, I don't know, every time I watch the final battle of Uprising, I always think, well, does kaiju insurance, you know, cancels my Godzilla insurance? When it interferes with my road damage, what? Gotta feel bad. Watch, oh, it's gonna be Tokyo. Why can't it be some other town? You know what time it is? Tokyo's gonna get it. Every monster gotta show up. Every monster, as the kids say, pull up to Tokyo to destroy. Eventually. We just haven't had a Transformer battle over there yet. We gotta Gotta be a hard life out there, man. Same thing with New York and California. Just blood's gonna fly. Or Washington D.C. King of the Monsters. Yeah, those people. That's at least 10 million casualties. At least. Shout out to King Ghidorah putting in good work. That's a joke. It's a joke. But there's a delicate balance. Go to another case, right? For all the complaints people have with the MonsterVerse, another Pacific Rim point, they complain about all the property damage in Pacific Rim. Never. At least in Uprising they have like, well, they got places and portals. Well, they also had in the first movie where you can go in the tunnels, but that's different. That didn't really. That wasn't like a system. That kind of just Otashi proved how much that didn't work. Just the basic underground thing. But no one complains about the property damage. Like that whole deckyard in Hong Kong, decimated. How many people lost their jobs? How many? How many? That's a whole lot. And that's the thing. They could have stopped it from happening if they had a better plan against Leatherback and crew. But Mari couldn't drift with Raylan and she was having her problems. Then just put somebody else in gypsy with him. I'm pretty sure them triplets can spare somebody. And she could just be that third backup. Matter of fact, you should have threw Pentecost in there with Rayleigh, and they could have went out there and do it. He ain't doing nothing besides from taking pills. He hopped in the Striker Eureka when he had no other choice. So all that property damage for what? And the people that got killed. I still think it's a great movie, but it's just when you think about some of those ideas, it's just that's the plan y'all chose to go with. You think that makes sense? Really? Really. And that's sad, because Trespasser creature that's like 300 meters tall, and you can't kill it with conventional means. And he's mastering people for miles, causing billions of dollars of property damage. Billions. And then you gotta nuke the place. And then 6 months later, another one shows up. Boy, I know one thing. If it wasn't a mass self-delete in Pacific Rim, I don't know what it'd be. It's worse. It happens one way. It happens again, and it's not just an American problem. My goodness. Imagine if. But then again, Godzilla's already international MonsterVerse. You know what time it is. Godzilla. You saw what Godzilla did to Hawaii. Tragic. And San Francisco. Tragic. Geez, a double whammy. Geez, my gosh. Boy, you live in a major city, it's gonna get destroyed in a fiction plot. You gotta feel bad for him. You gotta feel bad for him. I don't know. A lot of ideas, a lot of concepts, you know. Interesting. So I don't blame him for being underprepared for going against 2 Category 4s and a Category 5. But the creation of Raiju and Newt is a fascinating one, because it's something that we've never seen before. If a human is an agent for the precursors, because it already is confirmed to be people who worship the kaijus, right? And he's able to, that's the thing, like, I think Raiju and them were designed to fuse by default. And they set it up before they sent them through, on which there was supposed to be crab cake. Could it be a potential that the Mega Kaiju could have been bigger with crab cake? That's ridiculous. If the Mega Kaiju is any bigger, there's a chance that Gypsy Avenger running into him would not even kill him. Once again, shout out to Shout Industries and Herman for. So, but yeah, I like the movies, the ideals, the concepts, the worlds, and everything. It's a fascinating watch. It really is, to watch the whole thing come together and the ideas, and the concepts in the world and everything like that. Because there's nothing in Uprising that contradicts or destroys anything. Nothing. We didn't see Rayleigh for the whole movie, or any other character that was in the background for that matter, outside of Newman and Herman. But he done ruined things forever. How dare you kill Mari? How dare you? So she would have survived and just spilled the whole plan of how there's somebody making drones in Siberia, and then would have went back to Herman, since they would have already stopped it. They would have investigated the drones and would have shut down the precursor's whole plan. This is why Obsidian Fury would sit there to kill Mari. And which would make it even more interesting if Obsidian Fury is a Jaeger that was designed by the precursors through Newt. That would explain why he colored the way he is, got the weaponry he does. Could I use Gypsy Avengers as a basic blueprint? That's why you got. Well, give him twin swords, Newt say. Why not? That is a fascinating idea. Very fascinating. Because not very a complex plot. Ironically, the movie goes by quick, surprisingly enough. It's just the plan. Like, I don't know, every time there's a kaiju in an active plan, a lot of people die. Every time. A lot of people. That raid on the the Pacific Defense Force, that raid wasn't just at that one single place. It happened in several other countries. Hawaii. It's like some part in Asia and some like somewhere else. Several different places at once. People just getting up. They attacked the cities for no reason. That was just, I guess that the precursors just did that to make a statement. All right, want to nuke our cities? Okay then, buddy. And I was finding it interesting. There is one plot hole or loose thread that I find interesting, and that is, did Nuke create the breach technology, or did the precursors did? Because it doesn't make any sense for Shaw Industries to give them an ability to make or open the breach. That doesn't make any sense. But if Newt did it on an offshore place in Siberia, then that would make sense. Which would be a reason why Obsidian Fury should be very can like travel from place to place in water undetected. Because he had to come from Siberia to Australia, but that guy was booking it. Look at that speed. He was just booking it. Which probably would explain why he showed up late to stop Gypsy Avenger. That had to be a long swim. On which another concept is, could a Jaeger drown? Was Romeo Blue made, or Toyota Kango made to be in water? Like real deep water? Because we see Gypsy Danger can do it in Strike Eureka, but Cherno Alpha is drowned. Not sure. At that point where he does get drowned, they did spit acid onto him. But it's never addressed if all Jaegers can go into deep water like Striker or Gypsy, or is it just Gypsy and Striker and just the Mark 3s, 4s, and 5? Because Cherno Alpha had no type of drown protection. But then again, Gypsy did have his face ripped off at the beginning of the movie. So if he just would have just knocked him over, Gypsy would have drowned. Which is funny because I ended up creating my own Jaeger type of thing. Because a lot of fanfics, you know what time it is. They gotta be the strongest, the toughest, the most relentless, the most reinforced Super Saiyan 12, all Chakra Senju, Ninjutsu, Sharingan, Rinnegan. Gotta be everything to the max, which is hilarious. Because outside of a kid, it's just, that's insanity. But fun times, fun times. But overall, it wasn't supposed to be a multi-hour video about me discussing Pacific Rim Uprising and the franchise as a whole. Doubt most people gonna make it to end this video, but I like the franchise overall, and I believe that if there is any franchise that's underrated and it can make so much money at any moment from right now, it'll be Pacific Rim. There are so many ideas, there's so many concepts, in so many ways and things that you can explore and discuss, and there's so much time in between as well that you can work with, that you can manipulate. That there's so much. And me personally, if I had a chance to work with it, I'll bring my Guillermo del Toro and some of that art team he was working with. Why? It's not to fix the Mark 7s or the Mark 6. It was purely because when you create something, you have a special view on how it came together. It's like making your first car or anything else like that. You understand it inside and out to a certain degree. Now sure, there could be somebody else who's a good writer that can pick up where you left off and come up with his own ideas, but the backbone, the spinature, the blood, the DNA is uniquely Del Toro from the beginning. Everything in Uprising was just added on top of that, extra features, body armors, so on and so on, right? But it's still Guillermo del Toro's child, right? Now I don't know what happened with him between him and Legendary, but they just rejected the movie idea, or they tossed him out. I don't know. He got the time. Apparently, Frankenstein was a decent success. Hopefully, he makes a whole lot of money. Congratulations to him. But I'll bring him back personally. But the thing is, would he like anything from Uprising? Kind of in the early days, like I don't know if he didn't have deep involvement with Uprising, but I think he looked over or saw. I heard something that he saw something about it. I don't think he had too much creative control over it, but I think he knew of it. I can't confirm he approved it or not. I can't say, but I know he saw it or had like some light involvement in seeing it. But I don't think he had any ideas to do with the script or creativity. But I know that. But yeah, when you think about it, the exposed head of a Jaeger is not really a good thing. But then again, once again, as I say, Cherno Alpha got drowned. So, it's just yeah, a lot of interesting concepts. There's a lot of ways you can go with Pacific Rim. A lot of ways. A lot of things you can do with the brand. Uh, you can make a whole lot of money, especially with merchandise. That's the thing. Creativity and an idea can work hand in hand with merchandise and money. You don't have to pressure creators into making merchandise because letting them do what they do will eventually lead to merchandise post hand every time. How long has the Real Steel game been operating, the mobile one? For how long? And with that game, like Jaegers, and if you want to see some bad Jaegers or Kaiju designs, just check out the Pacific Rim mobile game. Because some of those are just fresh out the Real Steel creative, Real Steel creative a robot assembly. Because like, it doesn't fit. It seems abnormal. At least everything in Uprising, the Jaegers fit. The concepts in the Jaegers fits and everything. Especially that Obsidian Fury. My gosh. I'm telling you, Obsidian Fury got such a great damn design. It's ridiculous. It's not even funny. It's great. But yeah, this is going on for too long. Most people won't watch it. But the premise is, I think I'm the only fan of this movie in this part of the franchise. Like I'm the only one who likes the Devil May Cry reboot. I think that franchise also got some great ideas left in it, especially for a sequel, a follow-up, post Virgil, so on and so on. Incredible. Will we ever see it happen? I'll say see it happens. Because you thought bullying all of Twitter did anything? I'm telling you, if they brought back JC Staffs for season 4 of One Punch Man out of spite, that would be the funniest thing I ever heard all year. But yeah, I didn't have too many ideas, but I kept watching AMVs. I don't came up with a fictional Jaeger. And I gotta change the name. It's called Eastern Hawk, but it's just, I don't know. I might call it Eastern Assassin. It's a better name. But it'll mess up with the bird things. I don't know. Eastern Hawk would have to stay. Yeah. But it's not a really impressive Jaeger overall. But it's just one of those. That's a whole separate ordeal. That's different. That's different. But yeah, that's been my thoughts on Uprising and the Pacific Rim brand overall. This is an interesting video. But that's been my thoughts about it. It's a very rich universe, a lot of lore, and there's nothing in Uprising that really breaks that lore. Especially with the whole drifting thing as an idea. Using that at the beginning makes sense, but this is the same people that want to make a wall to replace Jaegers. It's not surprising that the governments or the officials or the heads members of the Pan Defense Force want to move away from drifting. That's money and very limiting. Very limiting. How many people out a million can drift? How many? Or even drift compatible or can drift period to any success? There aren't too many Jaeger pilots, period, throughout the entire franchise. Telling me that more people couldn't help to join in? Yeah, I enjoy the franchise. I like it. I love it. And I think I am the only one, aside from maybe a few people undercoverly, because you bring it up anywhere else. It ruined everything. It ruined my childhood. You're a grown adult saying something ruined your childhood. Now, if you want to say ruin the brand, that's one thing. Sure, you're almost 30, and you're saying something ruined your childhood. And that's when I started to believe one of the worst things to happen is because nerd culture became normalized. Because it helped validate other people's. And that's the thing. A lot of people only wants to do something publicly when the general public accepts it. And I never want to do it until then. Because if it's something you can get clowned for or made fun of, or keep it secret, or don't mention it. But as soon as it becomes public, oh yeah, he was just the greatest thing in the world. Just, if you take anything from this video, before I wrap this up, to one, I like Uprising, and two, in everything they do in their life, it's just a reflection of somebody else. They have no backbone, no spine. They're just a reflection. an image. And that's how you get a whole lot of people that hit 45 and have a midlife crisis because they realize their whole life they was never them true selves. Always an imitation. Just to get an invitation. But I'd be with you, like, comment, subscribe. And what are your thoughts on Pacific Rim Uprising? Do you like it? I know a lot of people don't. And what are your ideas about the future of the franchise? Do you believe, like me, there's a lot of lore, a lot of things you can get out of this? Or do you believe the uprising killed it and ruined everything? Oh my God. This video, it's been up to 3K, like, comment, subscribe, and peace.